outside the royal palace of Argos, 6 days after the murder of Clytemnestra and Aegisthus. Left of the palace door is a couch upon which sleeps Orestes. His sleep is very disturbed and obviously nightmarish, and he often tosses and turns in violent fits. Occasionally he sobs or groans in fear. His sister Electra sits by his side, comforting him and fixing the cloak that covers him. On either side of the palace stand armed guards.
They say there's no ill, nor grief that is sent by. Bro, what is this? What is by the gods? The weight of which cannot be endured by the soul of a mortal. The blessedness which I do not begrudge him, who, as I've been told, is the son of Zeus. The very son of Zeus, mind and furious, suspended from the clouds and trembling with fear. Lest a huge rock hanging over his head and falls on him. Well, people say that he's paying for a sin he's committed, a grave one. They say that of having an undisciplined tongue, he was immortal, and the gods have given him the honor of inviting him to their table to share in their feast, eat like them, sit next to them. But Tantalus just couldn't keep his mouth shut. Tantalus was Pelops' father, and Atreus his grandfather, and it was the grandchild Atreus who, when fate spun out of her wool tufts of destiny for everyone, for him she spun out a web of troubles which even included fighting a war against his own brother Thyestes. But what am I doing? Retelling the tale of a horror? In any case, this man Atreus slaughtered his brother's children and served them up to eat on a feast to which his brother had invited him. But let me jump over the event that would follow that one and get onto the fact that Atreus married Euripides of Crete. Those two had Agamemnon, who later became the famous, if you could call him that, general of the Greek army, and Menelaus, who married the heaven-hated woman Helen. Then Agamemnon married Clytemnestra, another famous personage in Greece, from which couple emerged as 3 daughters, Chrysothemis, Iphigenia, and Electra, as well as the son, this one here, Orestes. 4 of us, out of the shame heaven-cursed mother who had snared her husband inside the folds of a huge piece of cloth and then murdered him. What she gave as an excuse for that murder, well, that is something that would be highly improper for a young woman's lips to utter in public, so I'll just leave it for the world to work out on its own. No need for me to be the one to blame Phoebus with anything either, even though it was he who argued Orestes to kill his own mother, which admittedly was not a thing that would earn anyone any glory. Still, Orestes acted out of obedience to a god and died. I took part in the murder deed, just as Euripides did, who had helped us bring about the deed's success. She gets up and comes closer to the chorus. The very moment Orestes committed that murder, he was overcome by a dreadful illness, a shocking disease that has his body wasting away. There he is, the poor man lying on that couch, his mother's blood spinning him into his fits of frenzy. I am very reluctant and afraid to name the goddess who chased him with such terror, but well as the Euripides. It's been 6 days now that the corpse of his murdered mother was committed to the cleansing fire. 6 days and no food has passed the poor man's lips. 6 days and he is yet to wash the blood off his skin. For 6 days he's been laying there under his cloak, burning with fever, or whenever the fever eases a bit, he starts crying. Sometimes he jumps up like a young colt that's just been freed from his harness. And then there's also the fact that this city Argos has decreed a law which says that because we are matricized, it is forbidden for anyone to give us a place by his fireside, or to shelter us under his roof, or even talk to us. Today is the day when they'll all vote whether we are to die by stoning or by someone's sword, specially sharpened for the task. A sword plunged into our throat. There is one small hope for us. Our uncle Menelaus has just arrived from Troy, the harbor of Napoleon. is cluttered with his fleet. All his ships are anchored there. After he left Troy, he wandered about the seas for a very long time. He was afraid about his wife's welfare, though. Sent her off to the palace in the middle of the night last night ahead of him to escape the wrath of those whose sons were killed beneath the tall towers of Troy. He was afraid they might throw stones at her. Helen, she's taken on the role of the ill-fated one. She's in there now, crying and grieving the death of her sister and all the misfortunes that her family has suffered. Still, she does have some solace to her pains. Her daughter, Hermione, is with her. The little daughter she had left behind when she sailed off with Paris to Troy. The little girl that Menelaus brought here from her home in Sparta for my mother to look after her. That's something that will give her some joy, something to keep her mind off her misery. So now I'm eagerly watching every road leading this way to catch Menelaus when he comes. Without his help, I'm afraid we'll be sunk. There's no one else who will lend us a hand.
A house in the midst of a disaster is helpless. Enter Helen from the palace. She's carrying a basket containing small libation jugs and a lock of hair. She's very vain and conscious of her beauty, often fixing her hair or her clothes.
Poor Electra. Poor unfortunate Electra. Daughter of my sister Clytemnestra and Agamemnon. Poor, unmarried Electra. How is it all going, Electra? How are you managing with our brother there? Orestes. Our poor Orestes who has killed his own mother. Oh, and by the way, Electra, by talking with you, I'm not committing a sin, and so I will not bring upon myself any pollution, because personally, I blame Phoebus Apollo for that event. Still, I do grieve for my sister, Clytemnestra. My poor sister, I haven't set eyes on her since the day I was made by some madness, sent by the heavens to sail out to Troy. A most dreadful journey. Poor Clytemnestra, she's gone now, gone. So I cry sad tears over her loss.
You ask about Orestes. Need I tell you anything about him? When your own eyes can see the awful state Agamemnon's son is in. Here is no more than a miserable corpse, barely a breath out of him, and I'm not surprised he's suffering so much. I'm not surprised, and I'm not blaming him for them. I merely sit beside him, sleeplessly watching him. You and your husband, though, you are both so blessed. Ah, you have arrived at our worst hour, a miserable hour.
How long has been laying on that couch like that?
He's been like from the moment he spilled his mother's blood.
Poor man, poor woman who had suffered such a terrible death.
Unhappy both. He killed her by the action he also killed himself.
Please, dear girl, could you do something for me?
Sure, if I can, I've got to sit here, watching over my brother.
Where, could you go to my sister's tomb for me, please, Electra?
You want me to go to my mother's tomb? What for?
Because, my dear, I want you to make a libation for me and an offering of a lock of my hair.
But why? Aren't you allowed to visit your own sister's tomb?
No. I'm allowed, but I'm just a bit ashamed to show myself to the people of Argos.
Good thinking, Helen. Good thinking, Helen, but a little late. I was you who has left her home so shamefully.
True words, Electra, but unkindly spoken.
So why are you suddenly ashamed to be seen by the people of my son?
Electra, I'm afraid of the fathers of all those men who died at Troy.
So you should be, Helen. Your name is echoed throughout Argos. Every mouth shouts it.
So, Electra, do this little favor for me and relieve me of this fear, please.
No, I couldn't bear to face my mother's tomb.
But it would be an even greater shame to end these offerings over by a sermon.
Well, then why not send your daughter Hermione with them?
Because it's not proper for young girls to be seen in public.
But it would be a way of repaying her dead and for looking after her all these years.
Ah, yes. Thank you, dear. You have convinced me. You are right. I'll send my daughter right over.
That's it.